Morning. Tim here again. Another kind of nice day here in the Bay of Islands. Fog is lifting and getting ready to get out of here tomorrow. Got a great weather window to go north to New Caledonia, I guess. Should be 8 days. Trying to get some last minute boat projects and then say goodbye to New Zealand. Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about this morning is, my thoughts on New Zealand. And, it's a beautiful country. Made some pretty neat friends down here. But honestly, if I had known then what I know now, I probably would not have come down here. Certainly not for 6 months. And, explain why I made that decision. Probably starting out with a more general statement and then going down to some specifics. But before I say that, let me briefly talk about what I know as an American. In the United States, of course, we have a Constitution. And our Constitution does not exist to give rights to the citizens, we the people. It actually exists to limit government. The government of the United States derives its power from the people. We have absolute rights under our amendments to speech, to religion, to press, to assembly, to weapons. Now, I know that tends to surprise a lot of countries, but those are our rights in the United States. And one of the things that really surprised me down here in New Zealand is they don't have those rights. They exercise the same, but they're not rights given to the people down here. They're privileges extended from the New Zealand government to their citizens. And nowhere was that more better shown to me than the Christchurch massacre they had about a month ago here. Now, certainly I'm not advocating violence in any sense, and what happened in Christchurch to the mosque was just horrible. But still, I watched this country go from semi-free to no freedom in about 24 minutes flat. After Christchurch, New Zealand's Prime Minister, who is affectionately known by New Zealand radio hosts as the pig with lipstick, Lucinda, I forget her last name, right after that, she came out and said, great, we're banning weapons, and if anybody is found to have part or any of the video that was posted on Facebook about that massacre, it's jail time. And in fact, if anybody says anything bad about Muslims, it's jail time. And if anybody says anything about perhaps a contributing cause to that was immigration, it's jail time. And I thought, wow, as I said, they went from semi-free to no freedom in about 24 minutes flat. Again, in the United States, those are guaranteed freedoms. We've told our government through our Constitution, no, you cannot do that. Here, they don't have those freedoms. And of course, unfortunately, I think most of the world doesn't have those freedoms either. They share the same with New Zealand. But I was really surprised by that. What can I say? And even in the United States, it's interesting because, I call them the snowflake generation, are trying to argue we should give up those freedoms and turn them into privileges extended to us by government. I don't have to tell you how stupid I think that argument is, but whatever. So that's the political situation here. And I think the other part of New Zealand psyche is, again, they're mostly Brits, and nothing bad at all I could say about the Brits, but, you hear all the cliches about the stiff upper lip and the just put your head down and keep going forward. And the New Zealand populace has the same idea. So, nobody complains down here. Even though they may not appreciate the censorship that the government is now doing, and I hear this in a lot of private conversations, nobody says anything because, hey, they don't want to complain, just that stiff upper lip, just keep moving forward. And, you know, I think the combination of those two is not going to bode very well for New Zealand in the future. In fact, I think, unfortunately, give this country 30 years, and half of it's going to be owned by China, and the other half will be under Sharia law. But then they're doing that to themselves, unless they change their attitudes and say, hey, we don't want to give up our freedoms. So that to me is kind of a larger issue that I see here. Another thing I've noticed about New Zealand as well is, boy, they love their rules and bureaucracy. They have rules for everything. And some of the rules are just outright insane. You know, I remember when I was at this marina that the locals affectionately call the Marina of No, because everything you ask, the answer is always the same. No, you can't do that. Probably the most unfriendly marina I've ever seen. They never say anything to you. But, you know, as an example, when I was hauled out, Jesus, just putting up a ladder to your boat or a scaffold, the rules, you had to have it inspected, and you had to have somebody who was registered by the government set it up for you so you didn't hurt yourself. They had rules on what you could do on your boat. They had rules on what kind of paint you could use on your boat. Plugging into shore power on the marina, there were rules for that. The actual cord that you used to plug into had to be inspected and guaranteed by a government ministry. And I mean, they had rules on top of rules on top of rules, and a population that just goes along. Nobody ever complains. So I thought, well, that's not for me. Geez. Other things I've noticed about New Zealand as well is it's stupidly expensive. I mean, everything down here, oh my God, is boat parts on average are 2 or 3 times more expensive than they are in the United States, and that's with the dollar to New Zealand dollar exchange rate. And then the people here sometimes get angry about that. Not that it's expensive, but when you say, gosh, it's expensive. So as an example, I replaced my solar charger controller with a Victron MPPT. And here it would have cost me 550 New Zealand dollars. Got it off Amazon Prime for 189 US dollars. So it was twice the cost here. And when I made comment about that to the local proprietor, he didn't come back and say, yeah, you know, we can't match that, or, you know, things, something like that. No, he got angry about it and said, well, it's not the same one. And I said, it is the same one. It's exactly the same, right down to the part number. No, it can't be. You must have got the wrong one, because they are not that inexpensive. They are that inexpensive. You just live in a country where everything is so bloody ass expensive. God help this country if Amazon ever comes down here, because nobody will buy local. Some of the workers here that I've run into, well, you know, all across the Pacific, getting into more specific details, you know, I was warned, don't consider quotes. And I didn't quite understand what they meant until I came out here and hanging here with other cruisers. And what they meant was, you know, you'll get a quote and for time and money, and virtually every cruiser I ran into, the money was on average 15 to 50% more, sometimes 100% more, and the time was 15 to 50% more. So the quotes pretty much are meaningless here. You know, expect it's going to take a lot more time and money. Some groups are worse than others. The metalworking groups here, the welders, are notorious. I had a little hoop on the back of my Bimini. This piece right here. I found it in the trash. I wanted to reinforce my Bimini a tad, and it was too wide. So, you know, we cut out about a 1 foot section in the middle, basically 1/3 of a meter, and then welded the two ends together. I gave that to a gentleman to do. He charged me $250 to do that. I could not believe it. I had another friend that We took his pulpit off his boat up to the engineers, as they call them here. He wanted a stainless tab taking off and 2 stainless tabs for bow lights, one on the port and one on the starboard side, put on. Supposedly that took 13 hours at a cost of almost 1,600 New Zealand dollars to do. Even he was floored with that one. And those stories go on and on and on. You know, metalwork here, forget it. You can't do it. You have to go to the marina work dock, and of course then you have to pay for at least an entire day of the work dock. And then the way they charge is they say, well, geez, you know, we gotta collect our tools, and we gotta get in the car, and we gotta go to the work dock, and we have to take the tools out of the work dock and do the work and then go back home. And so what ends up being literally a 10-minute weld, they will charge 5 and 6 hours for it, because that's how they rationalize things. Just ridiculous. My suggestion, if you need metal work, don't do it here. Go someplace else. Some other groups, you know, the engine workers and the electricians, not as bad, but boy, they'll take their sweet time and charge you a gazillion dollars for doing anything. But there were some nice people here too. You know, Roger at North Sails, real good. You know, I was surprised how little he charged for some of my sail repairs. And the cafe here with Dave, the owner, real nice guy. Bill and Peter and Barbara at the marina shop, the insurance guys, real good guys, real honest. But as I said, there's a lot of people, I think, that are just, hey, you're a cruiser, let's gouge them. And it's kind of ridiculous. Now back to the marina. Oh my God. You know, it's probably the same cost as marinas in the States, but the one here, Bay of Islands and Opua, there's absolutely nothing to do around the marina. There's no public transportation, and they have rules for everything. In fact, twice a day there are people walking around with their clipboards. Your boat is sticking out too far from the other boats. Your boat is overhanging the dock too far from the other boats. You don't pay by the length, you pay by the slip that they put you in. So if you're an 11-meter boat and a 30-meter slip, well, you pay for 30 meters, which I think is a little unfair. I had to laugh. There was a friend that I made from Holland, and he was connected to shore power and had his electric cord was coiled on the dock next to the power receptacle. And they were complaining that that was an induction coil and could start a fire and it was illegal. Now, theoretically, that was probably true, but it wasn't going to do that. And what did he do? He took the coil and placed it from the dock onto his boat and said, well, now it's on my boat. My boat is registered in Holland, so this is sovereign Dutch territory. You don't have a right to tell me what to do. And in fact, that was fine for the marina. They were able to check their box, and that's all they cared about. Not solving the problem, but the check in the box. So as I said, they're just stupidly bureaucratic in this country. It's unbelievable. Expensive, bureaucratic, and you know, they they don't really understand true freedom. They just go along. So, you know, for those reasons, I'd be hard-pressed to tell people, oh, you have to go to New Zealand. If you have a lot of money, I suspect it's a great place. But the North Island reminds me quite a bit of California, to be honest with you. And the South Island, quite a bit of Alaska with the glaciers and so forth. Other than that, the weather this particular winter, summer, I guess, has been pretty nice. But it rains a lot, it's cold, it's a bear to get down here by sailboat, and it's potentially a disaster to leave by sailboat. You always seem to get hammered by a storm someplace. But, you know, it is what it is. I guess I'm glad that I came, but as I said, would I come again? Probably not. And I am getting up tomorrow. I'll probably post this tomorrow, so their customs doesn't stop me and say I violated some law by saying something derogatory against New Zealand. But anyways, yeah, once again, you know, it's Tim, Sailing Vessel Intrepid. You could follow us along on sailintrepid.com. Give me a thumbs up, and I'm always open for donations since I'm freaking poor after being here for a while. and I'll chat with you all when I get to New Caledonia in a few weeks. Everybody have a great day. Thanks.